This underdress may actually be my favorite. Hey Sunspace Sun, I'm Daisy Victoria, and welcome to the Middle Ages. Today we are going to talk about a topic that comes up frequently as a point of wonder and discussion and experiment, and that is bust support. That's right. How do you, in the Middle Ages, keep the girls in place? I've been interested in the Middle Ages since I was a little kid, and I love learning about the Middle Ages. I love medieval artwork, and I love the clothing. And whether you are involved in something where you wear medieval clothing, such as maybe a reenactment society, a LARP group, maybe you're doing some medieval cosplay, maybe you're going to a Renaissance festival, or if you're not doing any of those things and you're just curious, how did medieval people deal with bust support? Either way, you are in the right place. And if you're just curious, I want you to know that that's totally normal. We get so used to the way things are now with the way that we know them to be. And there's sort of this natural curiosity for how people can make things work under different circumstances. Like if they didn't have, this thing that we rely on now, how did they achieve a similar result with something else? It's totally normal and welcome. I'm going to show you some of the methods I use, what my undergarments look like, and what I think about each of these undergarments and not only where they came from, but under what circumstances might I select it. I'm going to start with the earlier Middle Ages and kind of move along to the late Middle Ages. So we'll get a little range here. First of all, I want to put out there two notes relating to comfort levels. First note is that we're all going to be sort of adjusted to what we grew up with and what we've conditioned our bodies and our minds to accept as comfort. So that may range in different times and styles. Second point is that people are going to be different. People have different body types, different sizes, and people are going to require different types of bust support, and even within the same body type may have different comfort levels and different personal preferences for support. If you were to take a good size sample from any population, I think you're going to see some variance here. So just kind of keep that in mind, looking at this from a general human perspective. Now that said, we're going to go off of what evidence we do have for the medieval period and fill in and experiment with it. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Past Daisy. Past Daisy spent a lot of time researching and experimenting with medieval undergarments, and we all know that time is the most valuable resource. So through her very, very high level of dedication, Past Daisy has made this project possible. Thank you, Past Daisy. And I want to specify too that I'm looking at primarily the European region here. So mostly like northwestern Europe is kind of where I gravitate toward, just in my interests, but most of Europe is going to be pretty similar. And you're even going to find similar things in other regions as well, but that's just kind of where the sources are in this video. Leading into the Middle Ages, I'm going to lump together everything that's like pre-1300s, just because the evidence for undergarments all the way up to that period supports that the undergarments were not supportive. So what you're gonna see is a basic tunic. In the medieval period, fabric was much more precious than it is to us now. And in order to conserve fabric, as well as I think it's just an easy patterning method, who knows, I'm not in their heads. But anyway, we have evidence of rectangular construction. So these tunics were typically made from rectangles and triangles. I do have a PDF tutorial as well as a video that goes over how I made this one. So I will link that for you in case you want some more help in actually making one. This tunic would be worn underneath a variety of styles. And that's really because it didn't change much over the years. Like this basic tunic just continues throughout hundreds of years and onward. So this is the most basic medieval shift, chemise, tunic, shirt, underdress, what have you. And it's not supportive. It's just basically to provide a protective layer between your skin and your clothing. So that way your body oils are going to get onto that shift and you'll have to wash that more often than your outer dresses. As we move through the 1300s, something really cool happens, and that is that clothing starts to become more fitted. This means that we get into a time when we can make the clothing more supportive. Now, I want to note that that's not to say that there wasn't any supportive clothing before. I have in fact made some clothing from earlier eras that has been quite supportive. It's just that we don't have evidence for support in the undergarments. So 1300s, we're starting to see the dresses shift to more fitted for everyone, men and women. Now, coming into this period, you're not going to see just one underdress. There is lots of artwork to support the fact that there were many types of underdresses. So let's look at a few that I've tried. First of all, you can still wear the rectangular construction tunic underneath. That's still there. Next, this is kind of my usual go-to underdress for most of the dresses from the 1300s to 1400s. It's basically just a simple dress with long sleeves. This acts just like the other tunic as a barrier between my skin and my dress. However, the construction is a little different as it now has curved seams. This is basically a less fitted version of the dress I wear on top of this. When I wear this underdress, I'm not getting any bust support from the undergarment. I am, if I want bust support, building it into the outer dress, or at least the next layer if I'm wearing multiple layers. For the next layer, you guys have seen me make a few of these on this channel. If you've been around since before I was on the YouTubes, you may have seen pictures of even a lot more of these. And typically what I do here is I make that dress very tight underneath my bust. So that way there's really no place for gravity to take things, as I have limited it by the tightness there. Typically when I am wearing a dress like this, the fit is somewhat similar to a modern sports bra-ish. You can control how much push up there is, because it's up to you. Like, how high up do you make it that fitted and how tight do you really make the underbust? If you want to learn to make this type of dress using my PDF tutorial, I will link to that. I'll also link to some videos where I used that pattern to create this dress. Another version of this non-fitted underdress would be the same thing but without sleeves. So not every underdress has to have sleeves. There are a couple of reasons why I might choose one versus the other. In medieval portraits, we see the arms covered. So if I'm wearing a short sleeve outer gown, I will choose the long sleeve underdress. The sleeveless one is nice if I want to cut down on layers and I'm wearing a long sleeve outer dress. So it's just kind of which one fits the weather best. The long sleeve one is obviously going to protect more of your dress, including your arms, but you may not need that. Okay, so what do you do if you want to wear this type of a dress, but maybe you don't want to rely on the dress to always have the support? Now, it's great. In an ideal world, the dress can just be supportive and we're always the same size. But I don't know about you guys, but even I fluctuate a little bit. And having done reenactment for so very many years, I noticed that sometimes the dress that I used to wear as supportive was no longer supportive, or sometimes it was too small. So what do I do to fix that and have a little wiggle room? What I came up with was making an underdress that is basically the same as the outer dress, and that way I can lace this up really tight. I made this to basically the smaller of my expected size range, so that way when I've been a little larger, I just don't lace it all the way closed. And since it's underneath my dress, it doesn't matter, nobody sees it. This dress is lined to the waist. That's because I made it out of a very thin material and I wanted to give it a little bit more structural support. If I'm wearing this underdress, I can wear a supportive outer dress. Obviously, it's not going to make a difference, but I can also wear one that's not quite supportive, that's a little looser. And because I've often tended to want a lot of support, this has helped me a lot. Even when my outer dress is somewhat supportive, but I want a little more, this helps me overcome that. Now this is the one underdress I'm showing you that is most speculative. That means that it's me sort of coming up with a solution as a reenactor that's using these dresses and trying to make them work for me and my circumstances. The next undergarment that I'm going to show you is based on a recent find. This dress is based on a super exciting find from Lengberg Castle in Austria. Back in 2008, a vault was discovered that contained a whole lot of garments, including this, what looks like a modern brassiere. I think this is so cool because this is our oldest example of something with these bust cups, and it's the first time that we found something like this from this far back. So it kind of revolutionized how we look at undergarments from this period, and I had to try it out. I first tried a version of the Lengberg bra, basically just trying to make what was found but in a full garment. That was probably back in like 2012 or 13, whenever they were releasing press and articles about it. There's a lot of thought that it probably came from a undergarment with an attached skirt, and in fact we have pictorial evidence of that. There are a lot of images of women in bathhouses wearing what looks just like the Lengberg bra on top with an attached skirt. Now these dresses vary, so not all of them are exactly the same, but a lot of them have some sort of like a bust bag area, which may be something different, or it may be these cups that we see in the Lengberg find. I patterned my Lengberg bra using a lot of patience and a lot of test mock-ups to fit my body. There is a team which studies the Lengberg find, and they are working on a pattern for this. So I'm going to go ahead and find that information and link it to you. Their pattern is not out yet, but it is coming. This dress laces up on the sides, just like the Lengberg find, and it's got bust cups. The Lengberg find has some spraying, which is like a medieval netting lace technique. I added some vintage lace to mine to kind of give it that look. So my Lengberg dress is a little bit on the small side for me right now. That's because I made it when I was at my absolute smallest. It still provides support, it's just a little bit more push-up-y than it used to be. This dress is also lined down to the waist, and I did that to give it a little more structure. I also wanted to wear this dress as an outer garment, and I thought that would just help it kind of be more comfortable as the only thing I was going to wear all day. This underdress may actually be my favorite, except for one thing, and that's besides the fact that I need to make it a little bit bigger. I could probably just loosen the side lacing as well and it would be okay. But the side lacing is the thing that I don't prefer about it. I really like the front lacing of that other underdress, and it's why I grab it all the time, because front lacing is super easy to do. Side lacing, on the other hand, you gotta like go to the side, and I often can't be bothered with it. But honestly, putting this dress on right now, I remember how much I like it. I mean, in fact, I like it just as a cute summer dress. Like, it's so comfy. Let's see if I can loosen the side laces just a little bit. The side lacing makes it adjustable. I mean, that's the benefit of side lacing, right? Yeah, totally like it, and I feel like I might want to make another one. Now we're going to go to one more version of this type of garment. So there is specifically a picture of a German potter wearing such an undergarment, and it so happens that a very good friend of mine is a potter and has done a lot of work with German pottery, and so guess what was just perfect for her to have. Also, she was my pottery teacher while I used to live in LA, and she's pretty freaking awesome and very talented. Now this dress looks a lot like the Lengberg dress. It's another one of those like bathhouse dresses that has some breast area and is fitted in the torso with an attached skirt that is pleated on. For this dress, it looked like it's kind of gathered above the bust, and cut as like possibly a single piece that kind of bags over the bust area. We decided to make this one a little bit heavier than a single layer because my friend Mercy did want to wear this as an outer dress as well for a pottery demo. And I have to tell you that she looked just like this picture, and it was amazing. Now these types of dresses, the sort of like bust bag or bust cup styles, could really go under anything, right? Like the great news about these is that they are very fitted. So these come into being more in the 1400s. This is kind of like the end of the medieval period. So after this, we're gonna go into the Renaissance era, and we're gonna see a lot of different types of chemises that you commonly see adaptations at Ren fairs and stuff, and they tend not to be supportive because there is support in another layer, such as a corset or pair of bodies or a supportive kirtle or dress. And with the invention of stiffening agents and even getting into boning, there was obviously a lot more opportunities to put support into the dress or another undergarment. I personally really enjoy all of these undergarments and all of these types of support, and each of them has its own place for me. If you yourself have tried some of these styles and you want to share your experience, please share it in the comments. If you've tried other styles or other types of medieval bust support, or if you just have some more questions, feel free to leave those below. And if you happen to see a question that you know the answer to or you have some experience with, feel free to answer it. As always, I would love to see what you guys are working on. You can find me on all the social medias as Daisy Viktoria. My website is daisyviktoria.com. And a special thank you to my patrons over on Patreon who help me to continue to create amazing content. I hope you all have an absolutely magical day, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.